All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start by calling the special council meeting for June 14th, 2023 to order. Could I get an approval of agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Adams, second by Councillor Glant, sorry. All those in favor? Next, we will move into the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land upon which we gather is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. Everywhere it is covered by the historic treaties of peace and friendship. We pay our respects to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who have occupied this land for over 12,000 years, past, present, and future. Land acknowledgement is a small but meaningful way of showing respect and honoring the indigenous people of the land where we live. It is also a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and the important step on the pathway towards reconciliation. Next on the agenda would be a conflict of interest. Not seeing any. We will move into number 5, which is 2255 Greenwood Drive zoning amendments. Councillor Justin Doiron.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Snow, and welcome everyone to the special council meeting. Just before we get underway, I'll just kind of go through the process just to clear up any questions about how things are going to happen over the next 2 or 3 meetings. So oftentimes when some of these more I don't know if contentious is the word, but some of these more these meetings that there's a large number of concerns about, there's often questions about what the order is and how the process works. So you would have received notification in the mail, and sometimes residents, I think, feel sort of blindsided when that comes in. But so I'm going to try to make this process as clear as possible as we go out as we go throughout this evening. So please keep in mind that this meeting is literally the first step in a process of rezoning. So this is the first time really that council has seen or heard a lot of the information that we're going to be hearing tonight. And tonight is the first of 3 meetings. So this tonight is really mostly about information gathering and getting some questions asked. Hearing from the applicant about the proposal, their plans, and of course hearing from residents with questions and concerns and feedback. So, and tonight is the one and only night for that resident feedback, and the reason for that is so staff can compile any questions that may come in tonight, and over the next couple weeks, get them answered. If they can't be answered tonight, find the answers to those questions and report back with answers at that next meeting. So that next meeting will be a planning board meeting, and it's going to be on June 27th at 5 p.m. So anybody that has questions tonight that we can't immediately find an answer for, staff will go and find answers to those and report back on June 27th at the planning board meeting at 5 p.m., which of course will be a open public meeting. And at the end of that planning board meeting, the planning board, which consists of myself, Deputy Mayor Snow, and Mayor Dan, and Councillor Morrison, will make a recommendation either for or against the application, and the final decision will be made by council as a whole on, it'll either be July 4th or July 17th. I guess we have to decide whether there's going to be a special meeting on the 4th or if it'll just be part of our regular meeting on the 17th. But we'll make sure we nail that down this evening so everyone knows. And so this process will be addressed again throughout this evening in not quite as fine detail, but as we proceed, some of the procedures will be sort of mentioned again. So, Deputy Mayor Snow.
I just forgot to mention, and I had one added job, and I forgot. So Mayor Kuchar obviously is not here. That's why I'm sitting in this chair. But he did want me to let anybody either viewing online or in the gallery know that he is going to review the video, watch everything that happens tonight, and he will be at all the meetings going forward. He had some out-of-town business for the city that he had to attend to, very important stuff. So not that this isn't, but he was already determined that he was out of town. So he just wanted me to let everybody know. So there.
Great. So we will begin, and again, we'll go through kind of the process as we go, and there will certainly be an opportunity for questions and comments, and we'll take as long as we need to. So the background for this application: the City of Summerside has received an application from Z&C Flourish International Limited for portions of PID number 1163526 to amend the City Zoning Bylaw from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density residential R2 zone, from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone, and from low-density residential R2 zone to high-density residential R4 zone. The purpose of the zoning amendment is to allow single-family, semi-detached town or row housing and or apartment buildings in the proposed R4 zone. And of course, on the screens, there is just a layout of the proposed zoning plan. The application was advertised in the June 2nd, 2023 edition of The Guardian, and letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject properties. So just as a background, the current zone, single-family residential R1, the purpose of this zone is to provide for low-density single-family housing and other compatible uses. So the permitted uses subject to bylaw requirements in the current R1 zone: single-family dwellings, accessory buildings, or assisted living. Discretionary uses subject to council approval in the R1 zone would be a medium child care facility. And conditional uses subject to a development officer approval would be home-based business, secondary suites, or tourism establishment vacation rental properties. The low-density mixed residential R2 zone, which is part of the, some of it I guess is R2 now, and some of the R1 currently is proposed to move to R2. So the purpose of this zone is to provide for low-density housing in the form of single-family, semi-detached, and duplex dwellings and other compatible uses. Permitted uses in the R2 zone, subject to bylaw requirements: single-family dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, duplex dwellings, accessory buildings, and assisted living. Discretionary uses, subject to council approval: medium child care facility, social services agency, boarding house, tourism establishment, B&B, and that one also requires conditional use approval. And conditional uses subject to a development officer approval would be home-based business, secondary suite, and tourism establishment vacation rental property. So all of those are currently allowed in the existing R2 zone. So those are everything that is allowed under R2. Proposed zoning, high-density residential R4 zone. The purpose of this zone is to provide for high-density housing in the form of apartments, as well as housing in the form of single-family, semi-detached, duplex dwellings, row house, townhouse, and other compatible uses. Permitted uses in the proposed R4: single-family dwelling, semi-detached dwelling, apartment building, boarding house, accessory building, assisted living, duplex dwelling, group home, medium child care facility, rooming house, row house, townhouse, nursing care facility, community care and nursing home, and social services agency. And I guess if it wasn't already obvious, the R4 zone, anything in an R1, R2, R3 is allowed in an R4. It kind of covers everything below it. It's just the same as an R1 and an R2 would be allowed in an R3. Discretionary uses in the R4 subject to council approval: tourism establishment, tourist home and inn, which also requires conditional use approval. Conditional uses in the R4 subject to development officer approval would be home-based businesses, tourism establishment, B&B and vacation rental properties, and secondary suites. So we're now at the point where we will take comments and questions. First, I believe there's going to be a brief presentation by Jen and Robert, who are here representing Z&C Flourish, just to make a presentation on their company, and we'll hear from them, and then we will hear, I believe, from John Mantha, who will kind of present more on the details of the application itself, and then of course we'll move into anyone from the public that would like to speak. We'll do that. So I'll invite Jen and Robert to come up and let us all know about Z&C Flourish.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, and the people from here as well. Yes, sorry, I just need to, face you like this way. Yeah, it's kind of like, my name is Jen. On the way from Stratford, Charlottetown, and to here, it's kind of like it rain a lot. But now here, it's pretty good. So maybe that's feel good. Yeah, we're going to have a great start. Yeah.
Jen, just for the record, could you please just state your full name and address, please?
Oh, for sure. Yes. My name is Jen. Last name is Du. I'm with Flourish Development Group. Yeah, I'm the GM for the group. Yeah. So that's
And your address. The address where you live.
Oh, my address
Yes.
is Charlottetown.
Okay.
Yeah, our office is in Stratford. Yes, so it's kind of like I just want to spend a few minutes to introduce our group. Yeah, it's kind of like yeah, it's been 6 years, you know, since we started Flourish Development Group, and started with 5 newcomer, families, from PMP program, and then they decided to kind of like started business here because they love this place. They think, PI is their second hometown. So this is how the group started. Yeah. It's kind of like the whole group, we have 3 different companies. We have Z&C Flourish Development. It's more focused on development. And we have, a property management company as well. It's more of kind of like taking care of, all the property management. Yeah, and then we do have a construction company as well. So this is the whole structure of the whole group. Yes, it's kind of like we really want to let you know how and what we did for the last 6 years. I really want to say it's kind of like with everybody's support, from the local businesses from the last 6 years, we've been working together with different groups and, for example, the lawyer, the bank, and also surveyor companies, here and there. It's more than 200, kind of like groups, we've been dealing with. Yeah, so this is kind of like made us feel like this is kind of the community, what we want to do. And it's kind of like, you can see from the screen, yeah. So under Z&C Flourish, we do have a big subdivision, over there in Stratford. It's just next to Fox Meadow Golf Course. It's a big, green community. It's a sustainable subdivision, and altogether we have 202 units, and we just finished phase 1. Yeah, so we're still working on for the future phases over there. And this is kind of like for this project in Summerside, it's another a big project under this company. And what we're doing is kind of like, we have 2 big projects in City of Charlottetown as well. So here it's more like what we're doing in Stratford in the Foxwood subdivision. You can see we do have, we tried everything there. It's kind of like we have, we focus on and efficiency, and also we try to bring more technology, or it's kind of like high-tech stuff here. So, for example, the modern, design, and also we try to use different materials as well. We have entire SEF homes. building just next to the campus of culinary. Yeah, and this is Montague. Yeah, for Montague community, it's we just finished another 2, 12 units apartment buildings there. So it is the largest, community in Montague. Right now we have 72 units. We have 72, families there. So we always kind of like think like this way. Even the properties under the company, but still kind of like people who live there, who stay there, they're really kind of like the people. It's not the house, it's their families. Yeah, so we're so proud, everybody feels that way as well. Yeah, this is another, commercial properties in Charlottetown as well. Yeah, so we have convenience stores, pizza stores, and also CDS is with us as well. Yeah, over there. And I think, this is in Charlottetown, Summerside, this is the duplex. Yeah. And some of here, kind of like, we do have about 50, duplexes in Moncton, New Brunswick as well. So this way is kind of like under the property management, group. In our office, we do have, a chief property manager, and also we do have in office, officers, and also we do have, on-site property management teams. So this is how we're working together. Yeah. So this is just some of the pictures of the, duplexes in Moncton. Yeah. And I think, maybe, yeah, this is just some of the units, in Moncton. Yeah. So we try to maybe from our website, it would be more clear, yeah, with, more detailed information. And this one is kind of like try to kind of like make it simple. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I think the next one will be, yeah, this is kind of like, about us, it's kind of like the group in the office. But the other thing is kind of like we want to address that. The other thing is right now with the high interest rate and the high, everything is, the price, right? Yeah, it's really kind of like we also feel, so proud to kind of like finally we're here. Yeah, we already have developments in Charlottetown, Stratford, Montague, and here. Here it's the second biggest, city, and finally we're here. We try to work together with everybody here and make a bigger community here. Hopefully, we could be a little bit, we can do a little bit, for the beautiful Summerside. Yeah, with the large, scale of the all the projects, right? Yeah. So, and we hope, we could lower the cost. And, for us, the main idea will be like, kind of like for the high technology or, efficient, items we're going to use, and with the large scale, of the units we're doing. And also we do have, the manpower to buy some products, from different, locations as well. And that will allow us to lower the cost of, kind of like maybe keep the good quality of the units and still lower the cost. That way it will allow us to kind of like support the community to lower the cost, for everyday living, with the kind of like nowadays high technology, and it will allow us to do something more. Yeah, so that's all about us. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, so I think at this point we'll invite John up, who I guess is going to speak more specifically about this proposal, and we may even ask as our citizens start to maybe ask some questions. Some of them might be for you, so if you wanted
Perfect.
to kind of stand by maybe in that chair there, so you
Sure.
can hand the mic back and forth during
Sure.
that time. But
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. And
Yeah, my name's John Mantha. I have a survey company in Stratford. I'm a professional engineer as well as a Prince Edward Island land surveyor. When Flourish came to me and looked at that particular piece of property, when we did the numbers on it with regards to the existing zoning, we couldn't get our money back out of it and supply what we want to supply to the city of City of Summerside, sorry. So what we did was we asked to see if the property could be rezoned so that we could better manage the costs. Now, this project here would probably be 8 to 10 years before it's finished, so it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be quite an investment with regards to the buildings and houses and things like that. As Jen said, a lot of the people that are in their buildings are older people, good people, and they try to create communities within those buildings. And what they charge people is very reasonable. They're very good to the people that live in those buildings, and the people that live in those buildings are very good to them. So everybody appreciates those communities. They did an investment in Montague where they built 4 12-unit apartment buildings, and that turned out really well for the city or for the town of Montague. Now, getting back to the rezoning here, what we did was we looked at the step zoning principle. So what we tried to do is we looked at what the surrounding land use was. So along Greenwood was single-family homes, right? So we said, okay, well, we're going to put single-family homes backing on to single-family homes. Right now, these particular properties are not going to be built by Flourish. They're going to be offered to the local builders in the community to build custom homes on those particular properties. So those R1 units will be sold to developers to put buildings on, or builders to put buildings on it. Now the R2 section, which he's outlining there, that there's also going to be, some of them are going to be offered to builders, and some of them will be built by Flourish. Now, why we went with the R4 zone, because there's nothing really to accommodate 4-unit townhouses. So we're planning on putting 4-unit townhouses on that section he's outlining there, right? And put apartment buildings around the outside of it, which would be furthest away from the residential single-family homes existing. To the south of that property, I guess Pope Avenue, right? There's commercial properties there. So we figured that the apartment buildings would not really affect those commercial properties. So that was the reasoning behind dividing that particular piece of property up the way we did it, right? The way it was done. As far as the construction of the homes, if you have a chance to go to Charlottetown, you can look at some of the homes that were built in that particular subdivision, and the apartments down in Montague. They use different materials and different techniques to provide a more efficient or affordable home that the people can manage. Like when we're talking about affordable housing, there's 2 components. One is what the house actually costs in the lot, and the other component is what it takes to run the house, right? How much electricity do we use? How much energy is needed? The type of windows, doors, you know, that's what they're looking at the end of the day, is being able to put energy efficient systems in these homes, which I think myself, if you go look at those homes, they have achieved it. Some of the homes were ICF, some of the homes were panel homes, and some of the homes were stick-framed homes. So there is quite a difference when you get looking at what was done first versus what was done at the end, and the amount of money it costs to run those particular homes. So that's the affordable aspect of these buildings that we're going to try to put up, is we're going to try to put up buildings that will use less energy than the existing ones we see today. So, yeah, so that's it. Anybody has any questions? More than happy to answer them.
So how this works, John just presented to us. Now we will, Councillor Doiron will open it to the public. So your question, and the only reason I interrupt you because when we have it on the mic, it can be recorded. It becomes part of the minutes. So if everybody talks out loud, then it doesn't get recorded. So if you have any questions, we'll get people to go one at a time. State your name, address, and your question. And so a lot of it, sorry, Councillor Doiron, but a lot of it might not be answered directly here today. So just so we're all aware, you're going to ask a question, and sometimes it's going to look like we're not wanting to answer. But there's no answers to be had from council today, and Linda and her staff will be recording all the questions, and then the next meeting those will come back. So, Councillor Doiron, proceed.
Yeah, and just to build on that, if there are any questions asked that we obviously do know the answers to, or staff might know the answers to, obviously we'll answer them today, but there might be some specific questions that require, looking at data that we just can't just pull out a thin air at the moment. So we'll certainly be reporting back on those, and that'll be on June 27th. So I guess if anybody wanting to ask or comment or anything, just please go to the mic up front, and maybe I will ask if anything's directed to John. John, if there's anything that you're able to answer, if we can just maybe hand that mic over to you, just so it's nice and clear. And yeah, I'm sure I know there'll be some traffic questions, and I know that the report coming on that June 27th meeting, I know it will have a traffic study component to it, because I know there was one done sort of in advance of sort of knowing that this might be happening. So there will be some traffic related items on the June 27th meeting. So I'll stop talking. If you wouldn't mind, and anyone who comes to the mic, if you just wouldn't mind stating your name and your address so we can record that, and I will just open it to you. Go ahead.
Ready? Okay. Can everybody hear me with my mask on? Because I prefer to ask questions with my mask. Thank you. Okay, my name is Karen Perry. I live at 282 Greenwood Drive in Summerside. And my question is for John, and maybe also you, depending on the... So my question is this, like you gave us this little diagram? Yes. Okay. So do you have a conceptual design diagram where you can actually show the placement of the 17 24-unit apartments, the 32 4-unit townhouses, the 23 semi-detached houses, and also the 18 single-family lots, so that we can visually see what it's actually going to look like on that little piece of land?
Yeah. Well, I guess the purpose of this meeting is for rezoning. The design aspect of this particular project will come into play over the next 6 to 8 months, where all this stuff will be outlined with regards to it. Once we know what the rezoning is, then we can provide our design aspect with regards to placement of homes and other things.
Okay.
Sure.
And if I can just really quickly add to that, and it can sometimes get a little blurry at times, but the rezoning process, this one or any other one, is really trying to specifically eye into the land use,
Yes.
not so much the land, what a project will look like physically, but it's the land, how the land will be used.
Okay, so I have another question. I'm still Karen Perry. I still live at 282 Greenwood Drive. My question is this: I'm finding it very hard for me to vote with any really good information on what you're proposing whenever you can't give me a diagram of what it's actually going to look like. Because we have to know that information, because once we say yes, like this is what I understand. Once I say yes, oh, that makes sense, and I would like this all to be turned into R4, we're going to live with that for the next X number of years. So we should actually, as far as I'm concerned, be provided with some sort of design so that I know what I'm going to be facing every day of my life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you on that one, but
No,
that
it's not. I just
will be,
find-
to come.
No, but that's what I'm getting at. I just find that if you're asking us to go, to vote with you, to do that
No,
R2
no,
and
nobody's,
R4.
nobody's voting. What we want to do here is we want to get information, your feedback with regards to what we're proposing. Like, we're not going to vote on anything here. There's 3 other meetings that have to happen. We have to meet with the planning department and do up a conceptual design with regards to where the houses are gonna sit. We have to look at the sewer and water designs with regards to this property. She mentioned the accesses, the 4 accesses off that property, and what kind of traffic it's gonna create on that road, and over how many years, right? Like, the first phase might be maybe a section of it. The second phase will be more, third phase will be more traffic. So we have to look at how that's gonna be phased in with regards to this development. This here is just a presentation or an information session in order that you all understand what's gonna happen here and how this property is gonna be developed, right? Everybody talks about lack of housing and affordability. Working in the business all the time, I seen the affordability go 4, 5 times what houses were maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago. So what we need to do is we need now to start doing more planning with regards to what we're gonna be doing with these properties in order to best serve the communities, right? But in order to do that, we need feedback from you people, right? So we can go back and look at it and say, well, yeah, this might be a good idea. Why don't we look at this, right? And that's the whole purpose of this meeting tonight. It's not to say we're gonna ram that down your throat. We want to present it to you, and then we want to find out what we can do to make it better. Right? That's the whole purpose of this meeting. We don't want to saw off with people, right? We want to work with people. So that's what we're trying to do here. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this again. I still don't understand. Do you want me to go back up
Sure,
there?
please.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, even if there's a quick little,
I might be a little
we asked,
I
yeah.
might be a little dense, I probably am. I still don't understand why, when you give this presentation, you don't bring that information with you. That's all.
Yeah, well, that's the next step with regards to what we're doing here. So this information will be presented at meeting number 2 and 3, right? So that we can give you a detailed outline of what we are planning with regards to this property.
I'm back again, but unfortunately, at meeting number 2, we, the public, cannot provide any input.
Yes, and that's why we haven't done a detailed plan, because we need to know what you people are thinking, right? This is what we're thinking here, right? This is what we'd like to do here, but we need to get feedback with regards to how or what we can do to make this proposal better.
So to make this process work effectively, I'm gonna repeat myself, we need to come to the mic, ask questions. When we get too far into the back and forth, that's where the meeting will get lost and we'll lose a lot of the important features of the meeting. So just one at a time, everybody will get a chance. If you wanna ask a question, go to the mic, ask a question. If it's not answered directly, it will be answered at the next meeting, okay? Thank you.
You don't have one you can hand around there or something,
One,
like a mic?
no, you have to go to the stand and, yeah, no. It's how the process works.
Deputy Mayor
Hi.
Snow? Just one moment. I just wanted to, I don't know if this would address Karen's question, but this strip of land here is intended for the single-family homes. This next strip of land here is intended for the semi-detached. This area of land is intended for the row housing, which would be 4-unit row houses. And the exterior of the property is what is going to be used for the R4 zone, the apartment buildings.
Thank you, Linda. Go ahead.
Hi there, Wendy Glant, 25 Quinn Cole Street in Summerside. So really, I just have a statement, my thoughts, my views. Now, these properties that we're discussing, they're surrounded by R1 and R2 zoning. We're a neighborhood of low density, and it's been established for several years. Historically, St. Elners, while it was largely a rural farming community, the community status, it evolved as it became surrounded by suburban residential growth during the post-war period. In 1983, St. Elners achieved village status. In 95, it was amalgamated into the City of Summerside. I grew up in St. Elners. I supported the amalgamation. Hey, we're a part of Summerside now, super. But we're still the suburbs of the city. And I would like to keep my low-density neighborhood exactly what it is, a low-density neighborhood. Now, without a plan, I understand it's to come, but without a plan, the proposed rezoning of the city and the adjacent residents, we lose the right and the ability to comment on the potentially significant changes to this neighborhood that we're discussing. Now, once the land is rezoned, because that's what you guys are looking for, the landowner will then have the right to develop a long list of high-density uses as their right. So once you guys change it, it's done. Now, by rezoning without a proposed plan, items such as significant landscaping and screening, buffering, between potentially incompatible land use areas are not considered, and there is no mechanism that requires them to do so. Now, failure to present a development concept leaves many unaddressed concerns for our community members, such as, I will just name a few, I can go on, but there's a transition area that should exist between high-density residential and low-density residential. There should be significant green space to complement our community. Without a plan, we do not see that. Landscaping buffers between high and low-density residential areas. Noise levels are also a concern, and that comes with high-density developments. What about streetscape integrity? What about the increased traffic, which is already a significant concern that still has yet to be addressed, and now we're adding to it? What about the safety concerns in our community with the increased traffic? By rezoning without a plan, the surrounding residents simply lose the right. We lose the right to even having a discussion. Now, I question why the city would even suggest high-density residential this far away from the city center. Each resident unit will have at least 1, 2, 3 vehicles, all of which will be adding to the existing traffic where we're already overwhelmed. Pope Road cannot be widened. We are already too busy. So why densify the suburbs with an R4 high-density zone when no one will have the ability to walk or use alternative methods of transportation to get anywhere? This should be in the city center. Overall, I feel that the amendments to allow high-density residential developments in this community on that piece of property are not in the best interest of the residents of St. Elners. I strongly urge you to deny these amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw of SS 15.
Peggy Kennedy, 325 Greenwood Drive. We're all wondering if you have plans for the road access. Like, we're wondering how all these units will get out of the area. Do you know yet about the roads?
The road system is in place. We have 2 accesses on Greenwood. We have 2 proposed accesses when the property next door gets developed. There are roads that run through the property. They run parallel to Greenwood Drive. And right now, the only access to those roads would be to Greenwood Drive.
Linda, is it safe to say these are existing access points to that property.
Yeah, this connection here across from Berkshire Drive has been in the plan. It was in the concept when this property was first rezoned to R1 and R2. And the other access point is here onto Greenwood Drive. And as John mentioned, there's 2 proposed for future to the next property. We have to leave stub streets over to the next property, which is basically behind the Renforth Avenue section, so that would connect there, and then eventually Renforth would be another option to exit this area.
And for the public's knowledge, why I asked that question is because we usually run into this where there's future plans, not necessarily zoning, but stubs of a property to access property, so when they or if they do get developed, that property's there. So this isn't anything new, these stubs, they're existing stubs that were there. Okay, thank you.
Hello, Ryan Dunn, 104 Berkshire Drive. I guess it would be more of the city. What will the city do about Greenwood Drive? Because the road is basically too narrow as it is now with the amount of traffic on it. You can't walk down the street without stopping traffic, and the road would need to be widened. It's the narrowest road in the whole area, and if you're looking to change this to put that many potential vehicles, there will be potentially catastrophic dealings with somebody getting run over, and that. What was the city going to do about this?
So I know just from previous applications that when it comes to traffic and what current streets and even what future streets can handle in terms of vehicles per day and that sort of thing, I know those are pretty much always addressed in the second meeting. Linda, is that correct? Like it'll...
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So there'll be data that's available that says the current streets can handle so many vehicles per day. With the increased traffic, the streets will handle this many vehicles per day. Of course, we don't know what those are, but that'll be addressed in the June 27th meeting. So again, just because we're not coming up with answers specifically tonight, we're going to get them. So that's what the second meeting is for. So we'll just carry on.
I just want to clarify because it's been stated a couple times, and I just want people to know. The city is not bringing this recommendation forward. The city has nothing to do with the zoning. So it's been said a couple times, why is the city deciding to rezone? This is part of the process. The city hasn't gone looking for somebody to come. We're here to listen, okay? So, just so we're clear.
Hi, good evening. My name's Robert Crocker. I live at 303 Greenwood Drive, so I'm about halfway along that line on the left edge. My questions have to do with the difference between the map that I received in the mail and the map that I see on the screen. I'm astonished to hear that you're not prepared to tell us that there isn't going to be any increased traffic on Greenwood Drive. That's really not acceptable at all. Greenwood Drive as it is the only way in and out of the neighborhood. Everybody knows that.
I don't think anyone here is saying there's not going to be an increase in traffic.
Yeah, well, I'm
I think it's
astonished to
obvious
hear
that
that
there
you're
will
not telling us otherwise. This is
Well,
very,
of course,
very disappointing.
There will
am
be
I
an
right?
increase to traffic.
Okay.
There would be definitely an increase to traffic with additional units that only can access and exit off that street.
Well, we think you should find another way in and out. My other question would have to do with, so on the map that I got in the mail, there's a white line, white space, between the zoning area, right? That's that area there, which is in back of all our backyards, if we're odd numbers on Greenwood Drive. Now, our backyards are very narrow as it is, and we'd really like to know what's going to happen with that strip of land. I kind of hear that there's going to be single-unit dwellings with their backyards backing onto that. The map seems to suggest otherwise because of that strip there. And I think I'm speaking for anybody along that strip, that we would rather see some trees, we'd rather see some green space. Maybe there's a possibility of an easement there. That our yards are already very narrow indeed. I can stand on my back deck and water the whole lawn, right? So like we don't need another row of housing with tiny backyards right there. You know, I'd be able to share a cup of coffee across the backyard, literally, with my neighbors.
I think why that white strip actually shows up, because it's already zoned for R1, so we're not changing the zoning with regards to that portion of that particular piece of property. That's why that white strip shows up there.
I feel deceived by that.
Well, that's, I didn't do up that plan, but I know that's why it's already R1.
What happened to that space, I think?
Well, it's R1. It's existing
So
R1.
what's white on there?
What's white on there, we're not changing the zoning on it. We're leaving it alone, right?
I see.
So we're changing the zoning on R2 and R4.
Not very white. Oh, boy.
So as of right tomorrow, just to kind of bring the point home, tomorrow, without having to go through any rezoning, there could be single-family houses built there.
So if I wanted, so just for clarification, I know I'm trying to help you here, just so they understand too. So if I bought something in that white strip, I could build tomorrow.
Of course, yeah.
No-
You'd
no
still need
issue.
road frontage.
Yes, exactly,
But,
but that it's staying zoned for what it currently is. That is not changing.
Correct, yeah.
Right, okay, perfect.
Paul Campbell, Greenwood Drive. Councillors, Deputy Mayor, Representative of Flourish, Mr. Mantha. It's ironic and a little bit disappointing that on June 16th, 2003, almost 20 years ago, a report and a petition was presented to Technical Services, and I think, Mr. McDougall, you were the chair at that time. And it was because Council or Technical Services was looking at connecting Greenwood Drive to all-weather highway. And you can understand what that would do to the traffic on Greenwood Drive. The ironic part is nothing has changed on Greenwood Drive in 20 years. There was, or is, a failed attempt at an intersection with Pope Road and Greenwood Drive. So I'm afraid you're receiving some of that, some of those issues that we've had for the last 20 years. And I'm with others, until we see a full report, and in the absence of data, the answer is no to the change of zoning. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Please state your name. I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry to do this to you people again. My name is still Karen Perry. Still live at 282 Greenwood Drive, and I'm still short. Okay. I'm going to read to you just a part of the letter that I forwarded to Ms. Stevenson in regards to some of my questions and some of my concerns. So I'm only going to read a very small part, okay? And it's based on, it's 600 units that you're looking at, because that's the information that we received. That based on the 17 apartment buildings, 24 units, blah, blah, and when you do the math, it's 600 units. So 600 units would provide housing for a range of 1,320 people to 2,400 people, based on an average of 2.2 to 4 people per household. And the 2.2 figure I got from the mayor. So I'm presuming that was correct, the information. So I did some research, and based on StatsCan 2021 census, the land population of Summerside is 16,001 people, living in 7,393 private dwellings. The land area of Summerside is 28.21 square kilometers, or 10.89 square meters, with a population density of 1,469.1 person per square mile. The developer's proposal would mean a population density of 1,320 to 2,400 people per 0.1 square mile, because 64 acres equals 0.1 square mile, or 13,200 people to 24,000 people per square mile. That is 10, conservatively, to 20 times the existing population density of Summerside. This would easily translate, using my same math, to 10 to 20 times the traffic flow on Greenwood Drive, as well as Maplewood Heights, Berkshire, and McDougall Drive, increasing safety concerns of all residents. Constructing a roundabout off Greenwood Drive and Pope Road to manage the increased traffic would potentially result in the expiration, or you know what I mean, taking land from the funeral home and from the church off Pope Road. Once the decision is made to rezone the 64-acre site to R4 and adopt this developer's plan, there's no going back. This proposal would forever destroy the character of our residential neighborhood and would set a precedence for future high-density development of the agricultural land adjacent to 255 Greenwood Drive. And I remember, I was born in Summerside. I remember when anything north of Maple Avenue was in the country. I remember picking strawberries on that field. And I have the pleasure to be actually living in that area. And I retired here after a 38-year career in the Canadian Armed Forces. And I'm blessed enough to live here, to return to my hometown. So I would just like you people to take this into consideration. I'm sure a lot of the people here have vested interests in their homes. They brought up their children here. They don't want their children to be run over by the extra 1,300 cars that we're going to be facing every day. Thank you.
Miss Perry, I just want to say thank you for your 30 years of service. I think that's important, so thank you.
It was fun.
I'm sure you did have a lot of fun, I can tell. Thank you.
All right, keep them coming.
I'm Chuck J. I live on 188 Pope Road. I'm sure there's other land we can find. I mean, the land goes there. There's got to be more fields on the outskirts. It's not that we don't want you here. You're more than welcome here. I'm sure they love to have you here. But that particular land, I don't think really works that well, just because I don't understand, like, you look at Maplewood back there. Why were we shut off from the highway? That's the only access in and out. There's a couple roads there, and it was shut off, and it was never attached again, which to me is, it's tough getting in and out of there. It takes you a long time. So that's a lot of traffic there. So why not pick something in the outskirts? Like, there's stuff along in behind Canadian Tire. There's land there that's already for sale. Like, I mean, I'm sure it can be split up. Everything doesn't have to be into this one area. And I was curious on the voting part. Do we get to vote? So how do we have a say here?
So yes, you get to vote. Every 4 years, there's an election, and you vote for us, who
Not
then in
that
turn,
way.
no, but I'm being serious. I'm half joking, but very seriously. That's why we are elected as councillors and mayor to sit here, listen to you guys, listen to the proposal, go through all the information, and then vote what's best for the city as a whole. Obviously, taking into consideration the people that live in that area. So yes, you get to vote and you get a say, but that in turn, that's how you elect the people you elect.
Okay, yeah. Because like you say, he's telling about the accesses, you're just gonna put way too much pressure in that area. There is. Like Greenwood Drive is, I can't believe how narrow it is to begin with. And it'd be different if you could attach to the highway. And then you could have people going out that way and this way, but. Well, I'm talking for the residents now, not for more people. I'm talking about just getting out of there now. But I just don't think it's a good idea.
Hi, I'm Heather Sheen. I live in 31 Gavins Court. I guess I find the whole process a little bit ass backwards from a land purchase standpoint. I don't understand why it is our concern if you get your money back. I really don't care. I think you should know if something is, if an investment standpoint, can you make your money back? Is it going to be a good investment or not before you purchase? And not to be, for us to be concerned of how that works. I agree. I think the, lower, I think economical housing is needed. I think innovative technology is needed. But agree with you, I don't think that's the place for it. Have your zone 1 and 2 as it stands, and find, again, near Canadian Tire sounds like a great place, but it didn't seem like good forethought, so I don't really trust that there's forethought with planning of what it will look like.
Johnston on Quinn Cole Street. I just had a question. My friend, when she purchased her land on Greenwood Drive, she was always told that in the back of her house was supposed to be a green space at all times. Is that on, not their plan, but on the plan already existing? Is there any?
That's that white piece, I think. To say something is supposed to be something sounds almost like.
Well, they were told
something a
when
real
they
estate agent would say.
purchased that there'd be never development in the back of their property. That it was deemed a green space in the existing R1. Is that true, or? I'm not sure, I'm just asking. They couldn't be here tonight, so I would ask for her.
Linda can add to this, but it appears from what we're seeing right now, from what's being presented, is there's already R1 zoning on the back of Greenwood Drive up to the existing land. Okay. That's already existing, so like Councillor Adams and Councillor Doiron had said, somebody could go in there right now and build up to the back of the houses
That
existing.
whole strip.
Right, so
Okay.
I don't know how they said that, but yeah, okay.
Hi, Lori Lachlan, 24 Quinn Cole Street. The only thing that I really wanted to say is that, like a lot of things, probably what's going to be the best solution is somewhere in the middle. There are people here probably that would love to see that field remain a farmer's field for eternity. And there are other people that want, apartment buildings and the R4 zoning. And I don't think, I think a lot of people, that's what they're most upset about, is the apartment buildings. I think that there's a lot of people that realize that there is a need for housing in Summerside, and that the single-family homes and the duplexes and the row houses, while they're not exactly like our neighborhood, they're more consistent with our neighborhood. And I think what really is getting a lot of people upset is the 1724 unit apartment buildings. And what I would also say is that imagine the impact that 1724 unit apartment buildings could have if placed strategically around the city in the downtown core. for example, because that could really revitalize an area, right? So I just wanted to say that I think that there's somewhere in the middle where the community and the developers can meet. And I don't know if you guys decide to eventually allow it to be like all R1, R2, if that makes it economically feasible for the developer or not. But I think that's where the greatest opposition is lying with the community, is with those 17, 24 unit buildings. And I also think that if I understand what Linda was saying about sort of where those might be positioned, they would be closer to what's behind Central Street, like to the east end of the property. And I'm not 100% sure why there wouldn't be like access in and out through Central. Pardon?
If you want to provide some.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of land between, so this is the end of Rentforth Street.
Right, okay.
Okay, so we still have Central Street over here, and then the area behind Canadian Tire, because Graham was over this way.
So there's a gap
there's quite
between
a bit of land.
Central.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And so run-through is the street off of Pope, where right now it's a street of duplexes, right?
Correct, yeah, with a cul-de-sac at the end, yeah.
Right, okay. I don't know, I think it's gonna put way too much pressure on Greenwood to do that. But anyways, I just wanted to say that I think it's the apartment buildings that are really of concern to most people. Thank you.
Just to speak to that, yes, we will look at, take the information that we're getting here tonight, and we will look at amending that plan, and then maybe bringing it back to the city. But we'll need to talk to the planning department to see what their thoughts are with regards to it. But yes, everything's open for discussion, and greatly appreciate a lot of the comments that we got here tonight. Thank you.
And if I could just add as well, on John, you saying that there will be, some amendments possibly made. Typically, for that second meeting, obviously we said before, tonight is the night for input, but if there is new information that comes forward, council does have the ability to, at that next meeting, we can open the floor for questions again. So I'll just leave that out there. We're not shutting everybody down after tonight. Like John said, if there's new amendments to the plan and people have additional questions, council will certainly, if we're all in agreement, that's the procedure to allow more questions, we'll certainly do that.
And I think the Flourish group too would also be open to working with the City of Summerside with regards to placement of some of these apartment buildings in and around the city. That's something else that we can discuss and look at. The last speaker brought up a lot of good points, and I think she's kind of being proactive with regards to this, and I think this is something we can all work out. But thanks again for your comments.
And also, thank you so much. We gather lots of information today. Yes, and also as John just mentioned, since it's open and we gather all the information tonight, and we're going to kind of like make some amendments, right? Yeah. The main idea for us, we really want to do something here. We're not going to kind of like make the community like, separate. No, but absolutely, for the company, we need to think about that, it should be like, make it feasible. As I mentioned even from earlier, for the high kind of like interest rate and the inflation, it's really kind of like hard for us to do something, like this. But it's kind of like, for some comments from here, we can feel, you really want to do something. And also, I can feel like, if the city could do something for the roads and something, let's all work together. That will be great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bruce Anderson, 247 Greenwood Drive. I've heard a couple things here, like you're looking at this as a 10-year plan to go through and develop these units in here. I'm not going to state how many units or whatever in there. I'm just going to assume you're going to put in a pile of apartments. Yeah, I've got to do that. Yeah.
We're going to put in
Yeah.
what the zoning would allow.
Yeah, yeah, which is a pile of apartments. So with that, I guess not only is there the stress on Greenwood Drive this way, proper, but I believe that just recently down on Greenwood Drive near Confederation Trail, you've opened that up to residential from commercial. There's which will add stress into that Greenwood Pope Road intersection, as well as down at the Pope Road South Drive. Getting in, I tried that the other morning going out of there while the tax people were trying to go to work. Not easy. I understand as well that the city's looking at east-west access or what way to go through, which is going to open up a whole lot of new land over the next 10 years. You've talked about, I think, the 2 more accesses to this. That field's planted. It's not for sale, I don't think, right now. So it's going to be a long while before that actually gets in here. So a lot of the traffic is going to stay on Greenwood Drive. And I believe there's property on Central Street just in the same area that's up for sale. Again, probably residential. I see a lot of a lot of areas in and around the city now, which is opening up to housing needs. How fast is the city going to grow? Is it going to be able to support these number of areas with this many people coming in? We haven't got the amenities within the city to support this number of people coming in. We've only got a small area up on Granville Street for shopping stuff. That's not going to be able to support that. We've had a hard enough time going in and out of there as it is. Other question to you directly. Down at the southwest corner, you've got that as going from R1 to R4. My property backs onto that. Why? Like you had discussed that you didn't see anything along the Pope Road. It was more commercial, and you didn't see that as being sort of an issue. You are backing R4 onto these existing housing areas.
Another plan that actually shows a cul-de-sac in there with R1 homes.
This one? No, this is it.
That's what they're doing right there.
Yeah.
This is right here.
But this area here, you stopped R2 here and put
Right.
R4 there. And that's where because I'm right here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why we're here tonight,
Yeah.
is to find some of this stuff out. But I know we have addressed that issue on a plan that we're starting to put together. But yes, we did notice that, and we did put something in there like that.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Councillors, Ray Rushton, 298 Greenwood Drive. So it sounds like, even though it's not, it sounds like we're all here trying to make the best of the situation. Sorry, I say no, period. That's it. And it's not that we don't need housing and stuff, it just doesn't sit with the area. It's that simple. We moved up there because it was quiet, and it's nice, and if you're gonna be putting in 600 units, it's not going to be quiet and nice. And I live in Greenwood Drive, and Greenwood Drive is a mess. I'm sorry, but it is. You can't walk down there. You're pretty near hit every time you are. The intersection on Pope and Greenwood is a disaster. We've talked about this. Mr. Doiron, we've talked many times about this. You guys set up last year, you guys set up all the infrastructure for lights, but didn't put lights in. I mean, I don't understand what's going on. And now you're talking about adding another 1,300 cars, 1,500 cars? Come on, guys, seriously. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I vote no.
Linda, I'm wondering, can you comment on, just with respect to that intersection, the traffic study that has been most recently done there, do you know if traffic lights are now recommended based on?
I can't comment. I don't know all of the details of the report. It's with engineering, but it will be, that information will all be shared in the report to council for the
So we
planning
will find
board.
out about that
So,
the next,
yeah.
okay.
So that this, I don't know if it's 100 more units in here that would justify the lights at that intersection, or if it's 200. I have no idea.
Okay. And just for my own, so I can get people aware, whether or not this is approved or not, I'd like to see lights at that intersection, as I have tried to get for the last 3 or 4 years. And I know council is supportive of that. It just came down to budgetary, but I still want lights there, whether this is green lighted or not.
My name is Ken Brown. I live on 278 Pope Road. I can appreciate that you studied Pope Road and the commercial tenants there are not interfered, but there are personal, private people there as well, and I am very much affected. And of course, like everyone else, it's that high density stuff. That Zone 4, my beautiful fire pit will now look at the back of a bunch of apartment buildings, and that's not what I bought that land for, I'll tell you that. And I tell you, I've been retired now for a few months, and I sit there and watch that traffic quite a bit in the morning. You talk about Greenwood Drive, which I know is horrible. Well, how do you think most of them get there? Pope Road. And you're not going to add any other access. You're never going to manage that traffic. Never going to manage that much more traffic on those roads. It's insane and dangerous now. So that's, I strongly vote no, and agree with that young lady. And yeah.
Hi, my name's Krista McDougall, and I live at 24 Alexi Avenue. I just feel like businesses should have evaluated the purchase of the property based on the existing zoning, and if the math didn't work, then perhaps they should have chosen a different parcel. If they want to build a new community in Summerside, that's great. Then start one with proper access rather than trying to squeeze it into our existing neighborhood and community. I can't imagine that the aging population, with the traffic and the added noise level for the individuals that live on Renforth, which are a lot of seniors, that they're going to be any happier about having increased traffic coming down their roads than we are here tonight, or at least some of us are. Something that hasn't really been brought up a whole lot is the HST Center. That is a significant amount of traffic on Pope Road. Even Duke Street is becoming a problem for people to try and get out of Duke Street now onto Pope Road. And I just feel like zoning it to a Zone 4 can be a daycare, which increases traffic that much more than just the 3 or 2 cars of each individual unit that is going up for the 600 units. I love my neighborhood. I'm a little bit upset about this. My house, I love my house, and if this community goes up as is, my house will be for sale, and I'll be moving out to the country, and I will no longer be a City of Summerside resident.
I think we got a repeat offender coming up.
Yeah, no, again, greatly appreciate all your comments. We're going to have to sit down and reevaluate this proposal, thanks to your input. And we'll work with the City of Summerside to put something in there that'll satisfy your requests. Thank you.
Hi. I'm still here. You're not getting rid of me yet. Karen Perry, 282 Greenwood Drive, and still short. Okay, my comment now is just because based on the amount of population, because when you build that many units, people are actually going to go and live in there, right? That's the purpose of it, right? So you're looking at, conservatively, 1,300 to 2,400 extra people living in those 600 units. Okay, my question is this. The city of Summerside, your services are, your essential services are getting stretched as it is. We have minimal health care. We have no walk-in clinic anymore. We have a police service that's stretched. We have a fire department that relies on volunteers. And if there's anybody in here, I applaud you. Because you're doing a fabulous job, but you're volunteers. And you're going into danger. There's all these extra people are going to be coming in. All this extra development is going to occur. We got to come up with some sort of strategy so that we can provide better essential services for the people who live here and for the future people that are going to live here. That was my only other comment, okay?
Hi there, Matthew Wedge, 304 Greenwood Drive. Thanks for having this meeting tonight, and thank you folks as well for wanting to develop here. I am appreciative of that. I grew up on Greenwood Drive. I was born there, 1981. Moved away for 10, 15 years, still within the city. Now here I am back on Greenwood Drive, loving it, same house. No, my mom, no, I'm not with her, no, my family. I do have a nice mom, but, you know, the differences, everyone here could imagine the differences between then and now. You know, growing up, there was nothing. Get out on the bike, go down the middle of Greenwood, no worries at all. Today, different story. You know, we met some new neighbors a couple weeks ago, and I said it was, you know, it was a joke, but in a way it wasn't. It was, I said, you know, welcome to Take Your Chance Drive, because we were walking down Greenwood, and it really is. It's horrible. And with extra units planned to join up to Greenwood Drive, it's not going to make it better. You know, the intersection at Pope Road is horrible. Everyone here knows it. You guys know it. Unfortunately, it appears there's too much red tape in the city. You know, I don't know if anyone's tackling that. Red tape and big corps, that's one of the biggest killers. And it will be a killer at some point. Realistically, it's going to kill somebody. You know. Having said that, I'm getting a little emotional. But, you know, with this development, I'm just going to open my notes here so I don't forget something here. You know, I guess my question for the developer, just in your presentation, I believe you had said that you were planning to source out to save money so you could sell the homes a little more reasonably priced. Was that right? Yes, okay. So I guess my question is, you folks have built already in Stratford, Charlottetown. I'm just wondering what they sold for. It'd be nice to know because we can easily find out market value. So it'd be nice to know comparable, you know, if you are selling them. I'm not saying you're not. It's just, you know, I'm just doing my civic duty here to understand if, you know, yeah.
It's really a kind of like challenge to answer your questions. It's really depending on the location as well. Yeah,
Yes.
and also kind of like even, for example, it's a duplex here, and also it's really depend on, you know, interior, how you want your unit to be finished.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this question, you know, it's a little bit challenge. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. No, I understand that. But I think, you know, it's like when you go to buy a home, or you have someone look the value of your home. They're going to appraise it. You know, there's always comparables. So I think it'd be nice if we could get comparables for the ones that you did sell.
And also it's kind of like I mentioned, you know, when I introduced, you know, Foxville subdivision, it's a green, you know, a sustainable subdivision.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, you know, for the sustainable subdivision, you know, for the efficiency requirement, everything is totally different. Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of like more high-end, you know, homes over there.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right, no, that's fair.
Okay.
Thank you. So I guess another thing too that I thought of was, most of the time when you have a big corporation and that's really what this is, go into a community, they invest in the community. So when I look at this development, I see, yes, the development of homes are coming here for people to buy. But I haven't heard anything about any investment in the city where, you know, most of the time, developers, you know, when they're local, they're investing in your city. You know, they're buying the supplies here. And yeah, it is nice if they can source it, you know, that's one thing. But I think this day and age, we're almost going back to locally, you know, supporting local business. And I do have a local business.
It's kind of like, you know, I love this kind of conversation. You know, we could, you know, answer your question directly. You know, as I mentioned, you know, from the very beginning, you know, without, you know, any support from the community, you know, we couldn't be here. Yes.
Yeah.
So absolutely, you know, for the professionals and also materials and everything we're doing, you know, especially I mentioned for the resources, something like that. I forgot to kind of like introduce, you know, the spaceship capsule, you know, in my kind of like introduction. Okay. That is the one. It's kind of like smart home, the whole, you know, product. Yeah, it's more like that. You know, for the kind of like materials and everything, we have Marcan and Timber Mart, you know, here and there.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Nope, that's fair. I guess another question for the city is urban plan. You know, this city's growing a lot, especially the last few years. And this is one development that we're facing. One that's not being met, you know, too nicely really by the people in the area. The major issue is the R4. So I'm thinking if, you know, this is kind of the start of it, I think an urban plan would be a good idea to address a lot of these concerns that are coming up. It's like patchwork right now, you know, one development after another, and then we tidy up things afterwards. And I just think there's a more efficient way to do it. And I think council should really look strongly at doing something like that. You know, because it's no good just fixing up things after things are done. Because once it's done, then we have to live with it. I don't think I'm missing. I don't think I'm forgetting anything here, but probably am. Thank you for your time, and.
And just actually to just add something to Matthew, I forget if our current official plan, it was either 2012 or 2018 that it was 2019. Okay, so although that was only 4 or 5 years ago that official plan was last released, I know we are working on updating it again. So stay tuned for that. I guess that should address some of this rapid development that we've been seeing, but yeah, we are working on our official plan to re-release it into a new version.
John Sentner, 109 Maplewood Drive. I'd like to thank all my community members for how eloquently they discussed the traffic. I just have 2 points. First one, and this is towards your guys' decision, please take into consideration the environmental concerns that none of us have talked yet. On the drawing that's on the monitors, that dark green area is a water course. In the spring, it is full of water. You develop this into R3, R4 around the outside like they are, you're disturbing that water course. On a normal day, even if you develop it into something else, that water still has to go somewhere, so take that into your consideration. The second one, everybody's talked about the traffic, the ins and outs of it. I would like to remind you of the forest fires in Halifax that just happened and some of the issues that they ran into evacuating some of the areas there. Halifax HMR has already started to cut new roads to access some of those places. So when you make your decision, make sure our traffic flow can get people out of there, because everywhere is in there. Gavin Estates, Maplewood Heights, your new development, whatever it turns out to be, all has to come out of that area. And it's going to come out on McDougall, and it's going to come out on Greenwood, and it's going to come out onto Pope Road, the way it is right now. And you're talking a 10-year plan where before those other two accesses are even available. So keep that in mind when you guys are thinking about this. Think about the long term and getting us out of there if something does happen.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Ron. And thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. As councillors, we have to sit here and take in everything. I can tell you that I looked at the overall plans over the last few days, and I don't think there's a question that hasn't been asked tonight that went through my head. But I just wanted to ask Linda, where is the green space allowed for in this plan? Is it the stuff that's already been designated as a green space?
No, so the green space dedication happens at the subdivision approval process.
Yeah.
So the lands would still be rezoned, but then they would have to give a certain portion of parkland
right.
To the city, or the city has the option to take it in cash in lieu.
Okay. Yeah, and that would be a decision the council would approve, right, at the time?
Yeah, well, one of the considerations would be this development and would be sent to Parks and Community Green
Right.
Space, and they would determine if there's a green space required on this development,
For that
or
many
if there's
people.
parks near it that would be suitable, but
Right.
they'll have to give that input.
And John, is that a road to the north at the top? Yes. No, over here, right there, back there. Is that a street outlet to the next? Right where you are, Linda?
Oh, this,
There's no road there?
no, so this
No.
area is another drainage area that runs along here at the
Yeah.
top of this, so there's no
That's
road-
just a
road-
divider of property lines there?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
And I think that's one of my concerns, but I can deal with that later. The talk of the Greenwood intersection has been on our minds for a long time, and we need to do something there. I realize that, but also the thing that was brought up was the pressure that Pope Road and South Drive. It was brought out here tonight, and that is an issue, and the city has to listen to that, because there's more pressure on that all the time. So if we're looking at adding more people, we need to take that into effect. The other part is Greenwood Drive. We had talked about how narrow it is, and I believe there's a ditch on the east side going up. I hope everybody shows up tomorrow night. There's a ditch infill meeting, and we need you there. So, thank you.
I just really quickly wanted to point out, because I know there was some chatter when it came up about when it was mentioned cash in lieu of the green space. So I know it's not cash in lieu, it's cash coming in place of putting in a park in an immediate area, but that cash is used for green space to enhance it if there's a park already nearby. So it's not just cash coming into the city. For example, out where I represent, Starlight, for example, it's developing, but in lieu of a park in the area. Money is set aside, and then because the park is already over in Lafergie, so just so people don't think that the cash is coming in and it's not being used for that intention, so.
Okay, I was just going to mention, certainly floor is still open. Typically, we would read letters that have come in from people that aren't able to be here tonight. There was a few that I had, but the folks were actually here and they spoke. There was one from Sam Dalton there. Did you want me to read your letter in, or did you want to speak, or okay? There's actually a couple, I guess, one that went to Linda and one that went to council. So if you don't mind, I'll read it out into the record, and okay. It's from Sam Dalton. Your address, Sam, I know you're on Greenwood. 288 Greenwood. Okay, so first letter went to Linda, who forwarded it to council, but there are two separate letters. Hello, Linda. I received a letter from you this morning regarding proposed changes to the zoning bylaw amendment. I had a few questions regarding the proposal. Some of these may have been addressed, but I'll still read the letter in its entirety. Firstly, how many additional units would be allowed on this significant piece of property if the rezoning requests were to be approved by the city? Secondly, I would be very interested to know, 1, the acreage/size of land, 2, the number of additional units that the zoning would create. I have shared the information from your letter with 240 other residents through our Neighborhood Watch Facebook page, and I can tell by the online discussion that our family is not the only one with concerns. The R2 and R4 zones allow significantly more units density, which can have impacts for the overall quiet enjoyment of our property, traffic increase, a divergence from the existing R1 neighborhood. This proposal has the potential to dramatically change our lives and that of our neighborhood where we have resided for 20 years. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to your response. And I will read another email from you, Sam, sent to council. Just wanted to officially express my concern and opposition to the proposed development and rezoning of land, PID 1163526 and 70748. The proposal of changing the current zoning, which is R1 low density, to high density R2 and R4 respectively, would have a drastic and negative effect on the current quiet neighborhood, Gavin Estates. My family of 5 have resided in the neighborhood for 20 years. We moved to this area of Summerside because it was a peaceful neighborhood. For example, we enjoy watching the sunrise, going for walks, sitting on our front deck, and even stargazing to the unobstructed view of the night sky. A view that we fear would disappear with the introduction of high-density apartment buildings, which is being proposed. Another aspect of the neighborhood which we have always enjoyed is watching and listening to the sounds of wildlife and nature which reside in the proposed rezoning area. For instance, in the fall, we enjoy watching the endless flocks of Canadian geese, which use the current farmer's field as a stopover to graze before they fly south, or my favorite in the spring and summer, listening to the thousands of frogs that call the local pond home. This same pond freezes in the winter, and often you'll see families from our neighborhood skating or playing a game of hockey. And of course, on top of all the tranquility in our neighborhood, we live amongst great neighbors and feel part of a community. Everyone knows one another. These above reasons are why we chose to buy our family home in the current low-density Gavin Estates. And although some of the above points may seem trivial to some, I can assure you they are not little things to our family or that of our neighbors and their respective families. We realize the importance of housing and providing housing opportunities for those who need them. However, choosing the appropriate area to develop is just as important as providing homes and housing. If zoning bylaws were to be changed from the current low density to the proposed high density, we fear we would be losing a very unique and special area within our city. Gavin Estates has always been described as country living in the city. If these proposed changes, almost doubling the current number of residents in our area, are pushed forward, our neighborhood would never be the same. When we purchased our family home next to a vacant field, we were fully expecting it would be developed according to the existing zoning and according to the existing land use policies contained with the City of Summerside official plan approved by the City of Summerside Council. We did not expect an override of the approved zoning and policies by an offshore developer. Moreover, based on my research, the developer has never undertaken or completed a comprehensive residential development. Why would the Summerside Council gamble that the developer will produce a quality high-density development? I thank you and your city councillors for taking the above points into consideration when voting on the proposed development and rezoning. So is there, if there anyone?
Just a question around the number of residents that would be there as well.
Oh, just one second. I think the mic has to be turned on.
Number
Oh,
of
there.
residents that would be in the area if approved. Is my understanding would be all for the same school zone. So the students would all be at Greenfield, if that's what I'm understanding. So distributing perhaps throughout the city as opposed to all in one location. Obviously, one school can't handle all of those students.
All right, anyone else? Or John, if you wanted to address anything?
Again, I'd like to thank everybody for their comments. With regards to Greenwood Drive, I never realized there was that much traffic, not being from here, that there was that much of a problem along that street. Very surprised to hear that. Very surprised to hear that. So I'm glad you brought that to our attention. With regards to infrastructure, well, we can't control that. With regards to schools and hospitals and stuff, we can't control it. All we're looking at doing right here is putting something in play that everybody would be happy with. And at the end of the day, that's what we're gonna try to achieve here. And, you know, we'd like to work with the City of Summerside with regards to placement or property that we could use to put those apartments on. You know, that'd be part of the overall plan. When we do decide to divide that, we could change the use of it to more with regards to what these people are looking for, and have places where we could build those apartment buildings. Well, anyways, we're here to work with everybody. We're not here to create trouble, right? We want to work with you, and very appreciative of what was said tonight. Thank you.
And of course, we do realize that, you know, the third meeting, which is currently slated for July 4th, that's not a lot of time. So, you know, if there's things that need to be worked on, I don't know how quickly you're all looking to, you know, get started. But you know, given the fact that there's, you know, maybe some additional conversations that need to be had, we don't necessarily have to reach a decision on that day. We can delay or postpone. So.
Yeah, no, that's correct. We're going to sit down. We're going to take all your comments into consideration. We're going to sit down with the planning department to try to find a solution that would fit everybody. You know, this is why we had this meeting tonight, was to determine whether anybody would entertain this type of development in this area. And obviously we heard the answer is no. So we're going to have to sit back. We're going to have to sit down and take a look at it and see what we can do to make this work for everybody. Thank you.
I thought you had something to say, so. Oh,
No,
go ahead.
Sorry, I just have one quick comment, because I'm still playing over my mind the playground, the green space area. And I know the money in lieu, I get that it can be reinvested in other parks. My concern is that children to access another park need to cross streets. And so if a development were to happen, they need a park right there. They can't cross Greenwood Drive. Already in Gavin, we have one in Maplewood, and there's another green space that has no park. And if you say Starlight area, that area didn't get a park, but it's in Lafergie, well then it's not, okay, good. So okay, so that's just my concern. Thank you.
I guess I wasn't going to say something, but I am. I want to thank the public for their input. I want to thank the developers for choosing Summerside, regardless how this goes. I was talking to somebody today, and it's a very true statement. If your city's not growing, it's dying, and we need to continue to build. That's the reality. I'm a strong believer in that. That has nothing to do with this zoning application, but we do need to really realize that our city is growing, and because there are issues with certain streets or infrastructure, we cannot put the brakes on development as a whole. So that's up to us as councillors to realize the issues and make the improvements that needed in all areas, Greenwood Drive, Pope Road, etc. So just so everybody's clear, as a council, thank you for your input. This is how the process is supposed to work out. I'm very happy with the developer's willingness to work with the city, so Justin, continue on the process.
Okay, so, oh, well, Justin's fine, please. Call me sir. So we will, at least at this time, proceed with the planning board meeting on June 27th, which will consist of some reports that'll address some of the questions. That's just part of the process. We'll have that either way. So I will also do an explanation of the process, a quicker version than at the beginning of the meeting. So in order to, and we will be voting at the end of this, but that is just a vote. It's not for the application itself. It's just to take it to the next meeting. We just need council's support and approval to move to the next phase. So that's what the vote will be at the end of tonight. In order to process the zoning bylaw amendment, the following steps are required. Step 1, the zoning bylaw amendment is read a first time and declared as read at a first council meeting. Step 2, the zoning bylaw amendment is referred to planning board for review and recommendation. Those two steps take place at the same meeting of council, and that is what's taking place this evening. Step 3, planning board reviews the application and prepares a recommendation to council. That step takes place at the planning board meeting, June 27th, 5 p.m. Step 4, the zoning bylaw amendment is read a second time and declared as read at a second council meeting. At this time, that's slated for July 4th. We'll make sure that the word gets out if it changes or whatnot. Step 5, the zoning bylaw amendment is read to be adopted by council. The resolution will be either carried or defeated by vote of council. If the zoning bylaw amendment is adopted by council, it is sent to the Minister of Housing, Land and Communities for signature, and the amendment becomes official. Steps 4 and 5 take place at the council's second meeting. So council's second meeting is the July 4th. It's a very confusing. The second meeting is actually a planning board meeting, not a council meeting. So second council meeting is the final July 4th. Please note that in accordance with section 5.20 of the City Zoning Bylaw, any person who is dissatisfied by a decision of council in respect of the administration of this bylaw may appeal council's decision within 21 days to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC. So I guess we will move forward with the resolutions. There's resolution A through J. Councillor McColeman.
Councillor Doiron.
Please.
Would you mind just explaining to the folks why it'll only be planning board voting on this tonight, like they might get the...
Council votes tonight.
Oh, we do too?
All
Okay.
of council votes tonight, and if passed, that just means that it's been approved to send to the planning board meeting. At that meeting, only planning board will vote. It'll either be recommended to be approved by council or not recommended to be approved by council, but council will vote whether it's recommended by planning board or not. Planning board doesn't make the final decision, council does. Planning board just recommends that council approve it or not. It's very legalese, right? It's just procedure. So we will go through resolutions A through J. They're very, I think, quick, so this won't take long. And I guess Deputy Mayor I'll read the resolution and you'll call for the vote. So resolution COS 23-077, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gallant. Seconded by Councillor Gallant. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0178A be hereby declared as read a first time.
Council, you've all heard the resolution. Any further questions? Not seeing any, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not hearing any, motion passed.
Resolution COS 23-078, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cameron. Felt weird saying that. I haven't said that before. Councillor Cameron, everybody. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0178A, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at this council meeting, be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0178A, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby referred to the planning board for review and recommendation.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution passed.
Resolution COS 23-079, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDougall. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0178B be hereby declared as read a first time.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any further questions? Not hearing any. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passed.
COS 23-080, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Adams. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0178B, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at this council meeting. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0178B, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby referred to the planning board for review and recommendation.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any further questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution passed.
Resolution COS 23-081, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Adams. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0178C be hereby declared as read a first time.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passed.
Resolution COS 23-082, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Morrison. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0178C, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at this council meeting. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0178C, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby referred to the planning board for review and recommendation.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not hearing any. Resolution passed.
Four more. Resolution COS 23-083, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Morrison. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0178D be hereby declared as read a first time.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any questions? Not hearing any. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passed.
Resolution COS 23-084, moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 1163526 from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, and whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0178D, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at this council meeting. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0178D, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby referred to the planning board for review and recommendation.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any further questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution passed.
Resolution COS 23-085, moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 11635526 from low-density mixed residential R2 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0178E be hereby declared as read a first time.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any further questions? Not seeing or hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passed.
Resolution COS 23-086, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gallant. Whereas an application was received from Z&C Flourish International Limited for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 11635526 from low-density mixed residential R2 zone to high-density residential R4 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0178E, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at this council meeting. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0178E, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby referred to the planning board for review and recommendation.
Council, you all heard the resolution. Any further questions? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution passed.
That is everything. So just to, I guess, before I hand it back over to Deputy Mayor Snow, if anyone has their calendars out and they want to know when the heck they should be coming back here, the planning board meeting, which is where the reports will be read and a lot of these questions will be addressed and data will be given, that is going to be June 27th at 5 p.m. And if at that time the second council meeting is still planning to go ahead, that will be on July 4th. It'll be a special council meeting. I think there's another item that'll be on there as well, so that's why we're having it on that night. We could also have it on the 17th, which is our monthly meeting, I believe. So at this point, it'll be July 4th, and that'll be clarified at the June 27th meeting. So June 27th, 5 p.m. is the next time that we're going to be addressing this application.
All right.
Public meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Doiron. Lastly, just thanks again to all those that attended tonight, the developers, the public, for your questions. It's not an easy process for sure, but it's one that we do have to go through when we're rezoning. So thank you for coming out and look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Could I have a motion to adjourn? So moved, seconder. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.